Euromaxx, Lifestyle Europe. And here's your host, Karin Hemstedt.
Greetings from the German capital and a warm welcome to our latest edition. Starting off this time with fair winds and the following topics. Tall ships, Hanse Sail in Rostock, one of the world's largest maritime festivals. Long nights, where to party during the London Olympics. And Smart Talks photographer Katja Henschel seeks out the latest street fashion trends. Well, it's like a floating maritime museum and a glimpse into the old seafaring days of yore. Since 1991, the Hanse Sail Maritime Festival has brought traditional tall ships from all over the world sailing into the port of Rostock in northern Germany. And it attracts about 1 million visitors every year in August. And while there's plenty to see and admire from the shoreline, it's quite a different thrill to climb aboard one of the headliner ships. And our reporter had that chance on a Dutch three-master.
Each year, the port of Rostock plays home to some of the most beautiful ships built during the last century. Visitors to the Hanse Sail Maritime Festival can admire the vessels and even sail along. The biggest draw is the Golden Löwe, a Dutch ship built in 1937.
The old technology is interesting, to see how it was done earlier.
The sizes. Everything is so gigantic. We'll see how the ship reacts when there's wind.
The captain checks the weather conditions and decides to set off. It's a relatively unromantic start.
On engine. We do it on engine. At the early days they did it on sail, but then they also waited for 2 days when the wind was correct, so now we're going on engine.
The engineers on board are responsible for getting the ship sailing. The vessel is 70 meters long and weighs nearly 500 tons. The captain's clearly happy as the Golden Löwe gets closer to the open seas.
Good wind. Nice. It's really good wind now. When there's a good wind, they can be excited. Maybe it cost us a few glasses, but that's okay. Backward side, zie je! Jawel, let's get lighter, hou up!
The captain gives orders to set the sails. Everyone has to pitch in. The 10-member crew as well as the 100 passengers on board. All hands are needed to hoist the 1,500 square meters of sail on the 50-meter high mast.
It's strenuous, but it's fun. That's why I'm doing the tour.
Here you have 30 people hoisting one sail. So they all have together the same goal of hoisting the sails. And that makes it very, very bounding and immediately a friendly atmosphere.
After the hard work, the passengers can relax below deck in an elegant atmosphere. The Golden Löwe was built as a research ship in the 1930s. Owner Robert Pasterma has not just restored it to its former glory, he's also worked on fine-tuning the sailing mechanism with several modifications.
We built this boat for 3 years ago. It was an old, we found this hole somewhere in Denmark and then we were building it as the Golden Löwe she now is. It is really a magnificent feeling to sail a boat like this. I really have to. When you have to organize everything and we're sailing and we're moving by the wind, that is a wonderful feeling and it always makes me happy.
The Golden Löwe crosses the ocean without the benefit of any electronics. Pasterma says that brings him closer to wind and water than a sailor on a modern yacht.
They don't look at the wind. They say we go from A to B and then they start. We always have to calculate the currents, the winds. If it is correct for us when we want to go to the make a crossover, we first have to go down to the south to pick up the right winds.
A sailing trip with the Golden Löwe is fairly strenuous, but the passengers realize that they're getting a much more authentic experience, even on a short journey.
It's It's simply a fantastic feeling, and I'll definitely do it again. I'm absolutely sure of that.
The forces that are at play to move this huge ship. It would be a dream to steer it myself.
When we were out there at sea, I imagined how difficult it must have been in earlier days, during rain and storms, and how brave Columbus must have been to just set out in such a sailing ship and say, let's see where we land.
The trip on the Baltic Sea lasts 7 hours. The triple-masted vessel then sails back safely into Rostock harbor. A sailing trip on the Golden Löwe is an unforgettable experience.
Well, all eyes are on London as the Olympic Games come into the home stretch before closing ceremonies this coming Sunday. And in our series, Just Here for the Games, we've been looking at the many ways pop-up culture shops and events have added to the already exceptional atmosphere. As more and more athletes wrap up their sporting agendas, they'll, of course, be looking for places to let off some steam and enjoy themselves. So in our final episode, we look at the pop-up clubs and party opportunities that will be packing up in just a few days' time.
London's Olympic Stadium. Just 100 metres away is the beach club Foreman's Fish Island Riviera. The pop-up club is open for 17 days, the whole duration of the Olympics, but then it's due to close. Lance Foreman, who runs a fish smokehouse next door, came up with the idea.
Our hope is that, people will remember it, they'll talk about it, and it will become part of the legacy of the 2012 Olympics. Just this nice little sort of enclave on the side where it's a little bit more VIP, and instead of watching the athletes from the back row of a stadium, the athletes are coming down here, you can have fun with them, have a drink with them.
House and lounge music is played from noon till 2 in the morning. A local artist is on hand to draw portraits of anyone willing to pay €50 a go. Mini massages are included in the €30 entrance fee. It's all free for athletes taking part in the games, and so is the bottle of champagne for every medal won. There's another pop-up club right next door called The Fringe. Renowned British street artist Ben Einer created the wall of the yard. Another artwork has emerged at this former factory during the Games. Ben Mosley has been capturing Olympic moments here every day. But, like the club, his artwork will disappear at the end of the Paralympics.
At the end of the day, it's good to be given the opportunity to produce something of this size during the Olympics, right outside the stadium. So that's obviously where I get the enjoyment, really, producing something that's happening as it's happening.
Further to the east, in the district of Barking, there's a temporary spa club, the Barking Bathhouse. It's part of the official Olympic cultural program. Built especially for the Games, it's staying open for 6 weeks. Apart from a spa and sauna, there's also a small garden for relaxing.
It's a shame that it won't be here for longer, because it's something like that would be nice to have as a, every now and then as a treat.
But it's just great to do something completely different, and everybody's smiling, aren't they? So what can you say?
Good if it kept popping up all over the place.
To the west of Olympic Stadium, in the district of Shoreditch, pop-ups like the temporary club Hackney House, located in a gap between buildings, are quite common. Not far away, a parking lot has been transformed into a pop-up club, a chapter of the famous Book Club in London. The club is also only open during the Summer Games. It took 2 days to transform the parking lot into the Olympia Club. Entrance is free. Having fun with sport is the goal. It was Andy Maddock's idea.
I enjoyed watching the Olympics in Beijing. And I think that when it comes to London, it's your doorstep. It can go one of two ways. There can be apathy, or people can really get behind it. And I think this time everyone's just amazed by it, and people are watching sports they're never interested in or never even heard of.
Late evening at the Olympic Stadium. While portraits are still being drawn at the beach club, other Olympic fans are off to a party in the city centre. The House of Nations is just one tube stop away. This pop-up club has been decked out in the colours of the United Nations. Every night, DJs spin records until 3 in the morning for sport fans who've come to London from all over the world.
Well, Olympic fever has, of course, affected all aspects of life in London, including the auction houses, where sports fans with deep pockets can make some gold medal finds.
Olympic. Christie's is auctioning off a gold medal in London. A British rower won it in 1908. Olympic medals date back to the first modern games, held in Athens in 1896. This torch is also a collector's item.
It's from the last time the games were held in London in 1948, and it's the original torch.
Paintings, photos, and furniture are also up for auction on September 3rd. All the pieces are from Britain.
Artistic. The Edinburgh Festival is on in the Scottish capital till September the 2nd. Overall, some 2 million visitors are expected to the world's biggest cultural festival. Artists from the world over will be taking part in some 2,600 events and performances.
Historical. After 6 years, the restoration of the ancient Villa di Casale near the town of Piazza Armerina in Sicily is complete. Over 120 million mosaic pieces have been cleaned and conserved at a cost of some 18 million euros. The villa, an excellent example of a luxury Roman home, dates back to the 3rd or 4th century CE. It's been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1997.
While staying in Sicily, the original town of Gibellina, some 80 kilometers inland from the capital Palermo, was completely devastated by an earthquake back in 1968. At the time, the survivors were moved to temporary shelters before they built the modern town of Gibellina Nuova, not very far away. But to ease the pain of seeing the ruins that were once their home, local authorities used the destroyed tract as a backdrop for theatre, for art and memorial works. And the result is a showcase for modern art that is utterly unique.
In 1984, Alberto Burri created the biggest artwork in the world, Il Grande Creto, on the spot where the city of Gibellina had once stood. It was a reminder of the earthquake that had completely destroyed the Italian city in 1968. The new Gibellina emerged just a few kilometers away, a city resurrected by art.
Many artists brought others to Gibellina because word got around fast that they could give deeper meaning to their work here.
Sculptures by Consara, Accardi, Rotella, and buildings by Gregotti and Purini still stand here today. Gibellina Nuova was a real-life utopia for the artists.
Thanks to the mayor at the time, there was suddenly a place which wanted contemporary art. And of course, the artists were really enthusiastic. This was unique in Italy back then.
A festival named after the Oresteia, a trilogy of Greek tragedies by Aeschylus, has been held here regularly for over 3 decades.
Since the start of the festival, there's been a leitmotif that returns every year, myth. After all, our festival is called Orestiadi. It's a myth about coming home and rebuilding. We're interested in contemporary theater and dance. That is the point of the festival. It's an island that's far removed from traditional and commercial theater. We try to discover new things and present forms of expression that are experimental.
Italian art helped bring the destroyed city of Ghibellina back to life and still makes it a lively place to this day.
Well, speaking of lively, that's even a bit of an understatement for a place like Berlin, where alternative creative culture thrives, especially in the warmer seasons. Well, fashion photographer Katja Henschel takes advantage of the time when everyone is outdoors to capture the many facets of Berlin style for her blog, Glam Canyon. And we caught up with her to see what she finds.
Super, perfect.
Whenever photographer Katja Henschel has time, she wanders the streets of Berlin, looking for people with a unique style of dress. She takes pictures and posts them online.
I really like people, not clothes as much. I like people, and I like the way they express themselves. Whether it's through their art, their clothes, makeup, or even their blogs. Taking photos of street fashion is my way of taking portraits and capturing contemporary culture.
Katja earns a living with professional photo assignments, like this shoot of a fashion blogger commissioned by a bag company. Her secret for a successful shoot is her infectious good humor. Sooner or later, everyone forgets about the camera. She sees herself as a reporter when she starts clicking away.
You can tell a model to be a certain way, but with bloggers, it's important they be themselves. So when you see a photo, you understand this person isn't faking it. She really is like that. This is one side of her, and it's a challenge to tease it out, but it's doable.
Bonnie Strange is a so-called it girl, a famous party girl. Each photo is spot on. No wonder. Bonnie has been posing for the camera for years.
It makes no sense to take 3 million photos if they're all good already.
The two have been working together for so long they've become friends.
She's very alert, very emancipated, also very tough, and I like that about her. She's not a typical little girl who just says yes to everything and repeats what others say. She really has her own opinion and always gets what she wants. She's successful too, and I think you have to be if you're a woman in a man's job. Photographers are still most often men today. It's still a man's job.
Katja taught herself photography. She posted so many photos online that people started giving her jobs. But that wasn't enough for her. She also does travel writing for glossy magazines, and she just published a book.
I think that these days you really have to know who you want to be. And if you want it hard enough, you can become what you want to be.
True talent is to want something, she says, and Katja certainly knows what she wants.
Well, next up, a piece of craftsmanship that was only on show to the public for a very short time indeed. The councillors at City Hall in Bremen in northern Germany normally have a carpet under their feet in their meeting quarters, the original of which was created back in 1913. Now, the most recent version of it was worn out after just 24 years of wear and tear, and now a brand new one, made specially in Nepal under the supervision of German carpet designer Jan Katt, has arrived in Bremen, and just getting it in the door was quite a challenge.
The Bremen City Hall rolls out its brand new carpet on the market square. 19 million knots covering 160 square meters and weighing in at 800 kilos. It's a faithful reproduction of an original from 1913. It arrived after a 6-week sea voyage. 42 athletes from Bremen's rowing club have been mobilized to carry it into the City Hall.
It's got the shape of a boat, I guess because it's so long and narrow.
One might think so.
I hadn't thought of it, but I guess that's what it is.
It's something we can take a little pride in.
The rowers have trained muscles and experience working as a team.
Now, fold.
Now fold isn't a command that we're familiar with, but we can deal with it.
This is a job for rowers. We've got the strength for it.
A piece of the original 1913 carpet from Bremen's Fokker Museum served as the model for the new one. The rowers seem to have little trouble maneuvering the 800 kilos into place. The City Hall carpet was hooked all in one piece in the workshop of carpet designer Jan Kat in Naples. A Swiss fair trade label watched to make sure no child labour was used and fair wages were paid. Everyone in sight was recruited to help carry it out of the shop. The Bremen rowers had size, muscle and local pride to help them.
Lighter than a skull. Yep, it's lighter than a skull.
Once inside the City Hall, the rowers snake their way into the banquet hall, and from there into the Senate chambers with the coordination of a giant caterpillar. The job isn't done until the carpet's rolled out. In just a few days, the Senate will be back in session here, making policies on a new €110,000 carpet. Bremen covered the cost almost entirely with funding from the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The new carpet isn't the first reproduction of the original, but the previous one only lasted 24 years. It's hoped this one will prove more durable.
I'm not so sure I'd advise the senators to take their shoes off, but it wouldn't be a bad idea. We'll have to think about it over the holidays.
At least now there's a good reason to call the senators onto the carpet.
Well, let's hope they at least wipe their feet. Well, the decathlon is over at the Olympic Games in London, but the aura of the event is slow to fade. And one who's long been inspired by great sporting achievements is French video prankster Rémi Gaillard. Now, his take on this most grueling of Olympic events is both amusing and not without its risks. And with a nod to the action in London, that's up next in this week's Euromaxx Clipmania. He's quite an athlete indeed. Well, somewhat out of breath. That does bring us to the end of this edition. So from all of us here in Berlin, hope to see you next time. And thanks very much for watching. Best wishes. Alles Gute. Tschüss und auf Wiedersehen.
Next time on Euromaxx, The Highlights Show. With Dancing in the Streets, the breakdance group Showtime transforms Berlin's Pariser Platz into a stage. Living near Mount Vesuvius, the Italian city of Naples is a big draw for holidaymakers. And sitting on concrete, furniture designer Maria Gustafsson transforms a familiar material. Next time on Euromaxx Highlights.